Interpreting the words, connecting the future. Hello guys, my name is Syaif. I wanna ask to you, have you ever heard setelah lulus dari sastra Inggris mau jadi apa? Then you are confused about what the answer. No, we will introduce one of the job option after graduate from the English literature, namely is interpreter. First, I wanna introduce my groups from group 4. The first is Elmira, Aubyn, Azzahrina, Innayah, Putri, Warna, and me, Syaif, Rauf, Sanjani.
Okay, so thank you, Syaif, for starting our presentation session. I am Elmira Aubyn, and now it's my turn to start our main discussion. Okay, so guys, have you ever noticed at a TV event or an offline seminar when there is someone translating verbally the speaker's spoken words? Okay, so perhaps some of you still have questions and have no idea who they are. Okay, so they are called interpreters. Basically, who is an interpreter? So, an interpreter is one of the professionals in the language field whose duty is to translate spoken communication orally and in real time for the source language to their target language. So, yeah, an interpreter has to be able to concentrate or paying close attention to every uttered word from the speaker of the source language. Then an interpreter interprets every single word in the target language accurately. Next, please. Okay, as we all know, an interpreter verbally translates spoken words. When a speaker is conveying information from the source language, an interpreter must directly interpret every single word into the target language. Of course, when an interpreter interprets message from the source language into the target language, they must translate verbally, clearly, and naturally in real time without losing the original meaning. But keep in mind, guys, being an interpreter is not a simple one. An interpreter must be conscious of cultural differences, particularly linguistic differences. Certainly, each language has its own vocabulary, slang, or even idioms. As a result, an interpreter must be aware of this in order to avoid misinterpretations. Next.
Okay, so my name is Innayah, and I will continue from my friend's explanation. So, what I'm going to talk about is about the required skills of an interpreter. So, the first one that we have is fluency in various languages. And apart from its language, these fluency skills, such as having an extensive vocabulary and excellent written and verbal communication skills, also need to come with the understanding of cultural knowledge of each language to create the balance of interpersonal skills. And then the second one we have is the excellent terminology knowledge. The understanding of general terminology knowledge of a particular field is also required for them to deliver concepts to the most complex ones precisely, and having an educational and professional background in the, for example, science or engineering or maybe medical, in addition to a background in interpreting, can be critically important for an interpreter's success at the event or for the success of the event itself. And lastly is a very well simultaneous skill. So simultaneous skill, like that we have the excellent listening and speaking skill that allow the interpreter to orally communicate, are the most important things to consider in order to achieve the accurate simultaneous interpretation, and which requires them to also have a great memory and also the concentration. Next. So here we are, that we have also the fields of specialization. So the first one is the legal interpreting. So the legal interpreting, in their legal settings, they are obliged to provide the interpretation to the speakers in legal proceedings. And simultaneous interpreting is very much important in this field. And then the second one that we have is the medical interpreting. That is, whenever the patients do not speak the same language as the doctor or the nurse, medical interpreters are required to do their job accurately to create clarity in a particular situation. And then the third one that we have in the field is the media interpreting. This interpretation services also provide for the media industry to interpret the industry's activities such as interviews, conferences, and etc. And lastly, that we have is the guide interpreting. That this interpreting work is dealing with the tourists, that they are providing interpretation services like during the tours, long trips, and other activities. And they interpret consecutively, of course, that they translate the speaker's words after they have finished speaking. And of course, all of these specialization always do the work based on the situation that they are facing, whether they are obliged to interpret simultaneously or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Innayah, for the explanation. So, yeah, being an interpreter definitely has its challenges, right? So, I will tell you all about the first challenge is, do you truly understand what they are saying? Indeed, that it is tough to fully understand the speaker's purpose. Distraction can come from adverse situation, and the most challenging is from the way the speaker speaks, which may be unclear owing to aspects such as accent, voice, and other aspects such as vocabulary or specialized terminology, since there are a lot of fields of interpreters. Next is, are you conscious of cultural variance? Okay, an interpreter has to dig deeper into the source language to roughly and gain knowledge before starting work as an interpreter. As I mentioned before, cultural sensitivity is something that an interpreter must be aware of to ensure that the terms or meanings delivered are appropriate to the source language. Because, yeah, cultural differences might lead to misunderstanding and also misinterpretations. And for the last one is difficult to adjust to a sense of humor. This task is quite challenging because an interpreter must also comprehend the source language sense of humor or sarcasm. So yeah, as to translate accurately without affecting the intended meaning. For example, there may be a speaker who puts comedy into their speech. Okay, so yeah, this task as an interpreter has to grasp and transform it into the target language level of humors. Next.
Okay, thank you, Elmira. Next is the future prospect of the interpreter. Before become an interpreter, we must have certification for support the prospect, right? Yeah. Next is being part of big events such as meeting of members meeting between countries, leaders who need translators who are expert in sharing foreigns. Is a special future job prospect from future become interpreter, right? And next, if you being proficient in this job will help increase your chance of advance your career path in the future. The wage of an interpreter. Uh, the salary of interpreter is influenced by several factors such as age, experience, type of job desk done, experience, skills, and country position. The salary of interpreter in Indonesia varies greatly in different regions based on the job desk. experience, and number of language known. From the job street source, the salary of an interpreter can start with uh, 4 million to around 30 million. It also depends on the company chosen, as this is one of the considerable factors that affect the salary amount. Is enough from our group. Thank you for attention. Interpreting the words connecting the future. Thank you.